Hello and welcome. You are listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. We really hope that you enjoy and benefit from this episode. So, hello folks, and welcome to this episode from the Sales Chat Show, saleschatshow.com, driving your sales forward. So, folks, the episode we're recording here and a couple of others that we're recording today are a little bit different to the normal Sales Chat Show format. Phil Graham and I normally get together in the studio in order to record these, but due to current very sensible restrictions that have been put in place in the UK due to coronavirus, we're having to record these remotely. We're hoping the technology is going to be okay for us to do that, but obviously with so many people working online and working remotely, that may have some implications, for example, on internet bandwidth, etc. But we particularly wanted to make sure we still got together because obviously this situation is posing challenges for many people, many businesses, and of course it also is posing challenges for sales managers, sales leaders, and salespeople looking after their customers working remotely during this difficult time. So we wanted to record some episodes to help you and support you through this. And then the first one, we're going to put Graham in the chair. He's our resident tech expert at Sales Chat Show. So this episode is entitled, Are You Technically Ready for Working at Home? So Graham, what are your thoughts, tips, etc. for our listeners on this one?
Well, I think one of the things that I've noticed as more and more people are working remotely is the lack of preparedness for doing that, the lack of technical expertise, the lack of technical equipment. And I think already I've noticed some people in some of the remote working that I've been doing kind of not quite ready for doing this. And the reason for that is fairly obvious, because if you think about most salespeople, the times they're going to have to do remote working is relatively rare. That they will either be out in the field where they're meeting customers face to face, or they are going to be in the office where occasionally they might need to do a Zoom phone call or something like that. But if they're in the office, they've got all the office technical equipment. And if they're out and about, usually they're just using their mobile phone. Whereas now they're back at home, they're using a laptop that might not be up to date. They're using a laptop that may have inadequate sound or video. They may also worry about things like the background for their video, that they're doing it in their spare bedroom and they think that doesn't look professional. And also that they may not have the technical know-how. For example, most salespeople, if they've got a problem in the office with their computer, they call on IT, who nip up from downstairs and fix it. Whereas now that's not going to happen, and you're going to have to fix it yourself. So I think a lot of people I'm discovering don't have the technical knowledge or technical skills to help them, and they don't necessarily have the right kind of equipment to help them either. So I think what's going to happen here is that those salespeople who are technically competent are going to fare pretty well in this period of time, and those who are not technically competent are going to find a real struggle. And so one of the things they could do is start to learn more about technology, to find out about, look at all those help files that they never looked at about how to use particular programs, and to go to those kind of beginners guides websites to help them through things, because now you're going to need to do that more than ever. Otherwise, you're going to be exposed as somebody who doesn't really have the technical knowledge or technical know-how. And it'd be interesting to know from each of you how technically competent you think you are to face this. I mean, Simon, you're sitting there at your computer, and Phil, you're sitting there at your computer. But are you worried or concerned or have any thoughts about gaps in your knowledge that you think might be missing. Simon, what do you think you need to know more about in terms of using technology?
Yeah, so I mean, you're making a really, really good point. What I'm certainly busy doing at the moment is helping some of our clients by providing things to them in a virtual environment that we used to provide to them in a face-to-face environment, or we previously making great use of the Zoom platform. And yeah, I spent some considerable time last week, both individually and with a group of colleagues, making sure that we really, really understand all of the functionality, really getting on top of that technology. I thought I had a reasonable working knowledge of Zoom, but I found out it was only reasonable. And really, really making sure that is, top notch. So, because the last thing you need is those sort of little technical glitches. And interestingly, I have a Bluetooth headset that I often use when I'm online. But we found out, for example, folks, a little bit earlier that was causing a couple of problems when we're working through the system we're using to record today's episode. So literally, as we were getting ready for this episode, I was on Amazon ordering a replacement wired headset to overcome that problem for the future. And of course, I think a lot of the IT supply chains are going to be under great pressure because of what's going on. So, it might be an idea to order as soon as you can. There may be a delay in certain things, understandably, turning up. But I think if you or any of your sales team do have any tech deficiencies, I think it would be a good idea to try to plug that gap as soon as is practically possible. That's my thoughts.
And Phil, what about you? What do you think there are gaps in your knowledge or understanding, or not? What situation do you think you're in?
Well, I think out of the three of us, I'm without doubt the least techie. And yes, I think it has come as a bit of a shock. And although I have an awareness and an understanding of what's required, when push has come to shove on this, I think to echo Simon's point, I think I've been found wanting, to be honest. So yes, I've already made a note to order the headset when we've finished this morning. And I think one of the things that I would be doing, I'm just thinking back to my sort of previous sort of sales director type roles. In that role, and this really is a message for sales directors today, of course, I think I would be treating this as the sort of issue that probably requires the quarterly sort of alarm in the same way that hotels test fire alarms. I think sales teams probably ought to, on a quarterly basis, just sort of check how resilient they are in terms of being able to work remotely and electronically for half a day or whatever. And I think if I was a sales director, I would make that a quarterly practice to make sure everybody has got a hands-on proficiency level with it, not where I am, which is a sort of an intellectual awareness level of it.
I think that's a really important point, actually, that testing your systems to make sure they're robust and work is going to become increasingly important for people. But I think there's some kind of simple things we can do before then, and I think already we've kind of agreed that we all need to increase our knowledge about the systems we're using. And often in the office we've been able to get away with things because there's somebody around who can help. There's somebody who can, press the right buttons on our laptop if we didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be that help is not going to be around anymore. So I think one thing that every salesperson probably needs to do is a bit of, studying and a bit of revision, and look at the systems that you're using and get to know them and practice with them, and read the help files and all those kind of things that you probably never did before are going to become increasingly important, because otherwise you're going to be exposed as not knowing. And in the past, that wouldn't have been the case. So I think that's one thing people can do, a bit of revision. I think the second thing to do would be to make sure you have got the right technical equipment for communicating at a distance. So that does mean having, good microphone, good audio equipment. So a wired headset is generally better than a non-wired one. And I wouldn't worry about thinking you look a bit odd on video if you've got a headset on. It's whether or not people can hear you is most important.
Yeah.
So, and people are going to be much more forgiving about it. So I think that's another thing. Get the right equipment. The microphone is probably more important than anything else. So most webcams are perfectly adequate these days and have been for several years. And in fact, the leading webcam manufacturers have not really changed the heart of their webcams in, I think, probably 4 or 5 years now. So if you've got a webcam that's even 5 years old, it's perfectly adequate for what you need to do. But microphones have changed. They've improved dramatically in recent years because they've been able to miniaturize the technology in much better ways. So I think that a good microphone is much more important than anything else. So make sure you've got a good microphone. That's important. And lighting is also going to be important as well, because you're on video. So if most cameras are okay to cope with lights, but often you find that your face could be in shadow or a bit washed out. So having good lighting in your room, and that just often means putting all the lights on in the room, which most people don't do, because they will sit at their laptop maybe with a table lamp on and not put the main room lighting on. And that's often all you need to do. You're not producing professional video, so you don't need, professional lights, but you do need to be visible. So make sure you've got the lights on, make sure if the window is behind you, then you need lights in front of you, because otherwise you'll be in silhouette. So a few simple things that you can do to improve how you're going to come across. But the most important thing is to make sure that any technology you use is the most up-to-date version. So that's kind of updating all your software to make sure that's up to date and make sure that everything is working properly. And you're going to have to get used to that and understand it yourself now, because that support is not going to be as easy as it was in the past. Okay. So those are my kind of main tips for making sure that you're ready for this remote working, because we've no idea how long it's going to last.
Yeah.
So we need to be ready for it. And the other important thing is that however long it lasts, businesses are going to have a new realization of the way they can do business. So they're going to expect you to do this even when life returns to normal. This is probably the new normal.
And Graham, I think just to loop back, some great points. Just to loop back to something you said about getting yourself up to speed as much as possible. IT functions are going to be under massive pressure. So what you definitely want to do is to leave your IT function free to deal with the really serious issues and the more important issues, not sorting out minor technical issues, which with a bit of nous and a bit of research, you can probably sort out yourself. And I think also an action for sales managers and sales leaders. You've probably got a real techie superstar in your team somewhere, or at the very least, you'll have someone who knows more than the average. So kind of make use of them as your sort of tech super users, a bit of peer support and peer learning to free your IT capacity for dealing with some of the more challenging organizational issues.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. I know that, for example, in one of the companies that I deal with, already their tech support in the last week has said no phone calls at all anymore being accepted. Everything has to be dealt with through sending, a help desk ticket through their system, and they're going to be taken in order of priority. And the priority is set by things like, is it a systems issue or is it a minor technical question? If it's a minor technical question, it goes right down to the bottom of the list, whereas in the past they would aim to answer everybody's question within a couple of hours. Now it's your question might not get answered for several days or weeks because they're dealing with, they're prioritizing not by order they come in, but by the impact on the overall robustness of their systems is much more important to them. And so they're working hard on, bandwidth issues, systems issues, and, you working out how to do something on your laptop is the least of their problems. So you're on your own, basically.
The only other thing I would just like to add, if I may, is that we've covered on a previous episode that little mnemonic opera, objective, plan, execute, review, and amend. And the comment that we made then was that in the world of the past, maybe having a clear objective and a clear plan were the most important parts of that 5-stage process. But the point that we made was that in the world of today and the world of the future, it's the speed at which you can do the R and the A that will count, the speed at which individuals and organizations can review and amend what's going on in their response to an ever-changing world. And I think this has come as an unexpected but interesting reminder of just how important that review and amend and the speed at which you can do it actually is.
Absolutely, very important, that, I think. So, Simon, I think that we've covered a lot of key things here, and that people need to, get their technology sorted out, because otherwise they're going to be found out by their customers and by their managers if they don't get to grips with it.
Lovely. Thank you. Thanks very much, Graham. Thanks, Phil, for that. So I hope that's been helpful for you folks, and that will help you to sort of get your people and yourself more technically capable for working from home through this difficult situation. There are lots of other episodes at the saleschatshow.com website, or for wherever you get your normal podcasts, that might be useful for you during these more challenging times. And in the meantime, from everyone at the Sales Chat Show, we just like you to stay safe, please. Please observe guidance you've been given in your local countries on behavior, social distancing, hand washing, etc. Please make sure you're following that advice, all of us making our individual contributions during this difficult time. So it's been Phil, Graham, and Simon from the Sales Chat Show. Thank you very much for listening, folks. Stay safe. You have been listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and from everyone here at the Sales Chat Show, we'd like to wish you good luck and good selling.